Welcome! We're about to dive into the work of one of modern philosophy's most influential and, let's be honest, famously difficult thinkers, Jacques Derrida. Get ready to see how he really shook up the very foundations of Western thought. Right off the bat, Derrida hits us with these potent little phrases. What he's getting at here is that a piece of writing, a text, isn't some fixed, self-contained thing. Its meaning is always tangled up with other texts, other ideas. It's never purely and simply itself. So, to really get a handle on his impact, we have to join him on what he called an adventure of the gaze. Now, this isn't about memorizing definitions. It's about learning to see the world differently, to question the very ground we stand on, all those hidden assumptions that shape how we think about, well, everything. Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to start with the big problem Derrida saw, then check out his pretty radical solution, see how it works in the real world, and then wrap up with why any of this matters. Let's get into it. First things first, we need to unpack this one single, powerful idea that Derrida saw lurking at the absolute heart of Western philosophy for like centuries. He called it the problem of presence. And honestly, it's the key to everything else we're going to talk about. See, this isn't just about learning a new concept. It's about a whole new way of seeing. Derrida is basically asking us to take a hard look at our deep, deep need for certainty, an assumption that's so basic most of the time we don't even realize we're making it. And here it is. This is the main target of his whole project. For thousands of years, Western thought has been obsessed with finding some kind of guaranteed, immediate truth that's fully present to us, something you can point to and say, aha, that's it. That's the real, unchanging meaning. So what does this metaphysics of presence actually look like when you're out in the wilds? Well, Derrida says it shows up as a constant, nonstop search for a fixed center. Right. This center is supposed to be the ultimate anchor, the thing that stops all the endless interpretations and guarantees that our words actually point to something real and stable. It's meant to be the final boss, the authority that holds the entire system together. And as Derrida points out, the history of Western philosophy is basically just a story of swapping out one center for another. For Plato, it was the perfect, ideal forms of things. Later on, it was God, the ultimate source of all truth. Then, during the Enlightenment, it became man, the rational human mind. Each one promised to finally be the fixed point of reference. Now, this slide is really interesting because it puts the two worlds side by side. The world with a center, on the left, it's comforting, right? It's certain, it's stable. But Derrida comes along and asks this totally radical question. What if the search for a center is the problem itself? What if meaning actually works like that other column, as a system of infinite, playful, unstable substitutions? To really explore this wild world without a center, Derrida gives us two absolutely crucial tools, a new way of thinking about writing, and this mind-bending idea he calls différance. Okay, so Derrida makes this really provocative claim. He says writing, in this big, broad sense, actually comes before speech. And you might think, wait, how? Well, because speech gives us this illusion that meaning is immediate and present. But writing reveals the truth of the system, that language is just a network of marks or signs that only have meaning because they're different from one another. There's no direct pipeline to some pure idea, just this web of differences. And that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? If there's no anchor, what's going on? Derrida's answer is a concept so new, he literally had to invent a word for it. A word with a deliberate typo you can only see in writing, différance. This slide really breaks down the two engines of différance. First, meaning comes from difference, the space between signs. The word cat means something only because it's not bat or mat. And second, that meaning is always deferred. It's always pushed down the line. To define cat, you need other words like animal or feline, and those words need defining and so on forever. So meaning is never something you can just grab and hold. It's always in motion. This infinite equivocity, this is exactly what the search for a center is trying to stop. But for Derrida, this isn't a failure of language. It's not a bug, it's a feature. This is language. It's the very thing that makes meaning possible in the first place. Okay, I know this is a bit abstract, so how does this whole idea of a centerless system actually work? Let's look at a concrete example from Derrida's own work to really see it in action. So you have this famous anthropologist, Lévi-Strauss, and he's doing exactly what Western thinkers have always done. He studies hundreds of myths and tries to find the one original, foundational center myth, the one that all the others are just variations of. He was hunting for that anchor. And here it is. Here's Derrida's incredible insight. He points out that the very myth that Lévi-Strauss picked as his reference myth, his supposed origin point, was itself just another transformation of other myths in the system. And there you have it. The structure has no true center. There is no original myth, just an infinite game of substitutions and transformations. It's a perfect illustration of Derrida's entire argument, just in miniature. All right, so after all this talk about centers and writing and difference, what's the big takeaway? Why have these ideas been so incredibly powerful and, yeah, it's so controversial? This is so important because it's a huge misconception. Derrida isn't saying there's no meaning. He's saying meaning is way more dynamic and creative and playful than we give it credit for. By letting go of this desperate need for an ultimate foundation, we actually open ourselves up to a much richer, more complex way of understanding texts, ideas, and the world itself. So, let's just do a quick recap of the journey we've been on. We saw how Western thought is always looking for that stable center. Derrida comes along and says, nope, it's an illusion. Instead, meaning is created through difference, that constant moving process of difference and deferral. And deconstruction isn't about blowing things up. It's the tool he gives us to actually see this infinite play of meaning at work. And this is the provocative thought Derrida leaves us with. If there's no preordained, guaranteed center to fall back on, then the responsibility and the freedom to interpret, to create, and to play within these structures of meaning, well, that falls to us. And that's both a profound challenge and a pretty exhilarating invitation.